Hey guys, welcome to MVP Coach's Corner, where Bro Logic goes to die, covering nutrition, contest prep, PEDs, coaching, and living the lifestyle of bodybuilding. If you're just watching this video now, make sure you please like and subscribe, and turn your notifications for our next video.
Well, at least nobody got hurt playing Topgolf.
Yes.
I almost said mini golf.
Yeah, Bree the entire time yesterday, she goes, we should really work mini golfing. Every time you swung, she's like, we should totally take a mini golf.
I am very calm, cool, and collective when I mini golf. I'm strategic, like chess, but this was not a chess competition. This was how far can I hit the ball? That apparently is not very far.
I crushed a couple of them yesterday.
And you missed.
You did.
The
You
one
did.
I got on camera, he missed. It was hilarious.
If no one
That
knew,
was.
I used to
How
golf
many-
for fun.
How
For
many
like
did
a
you miss?
year. I watched every golf video you could ever watch, and I learned how to get good at driving, so I didn't have to be good at anything else because I was already good at putting from mini golf. So as long as I could drive the ball, I was fine.
But
You know what I did? None of that ever.
and the ball is still right there.
Solid swing.
Solid.
I just missed.
Alrighty. So we are planning on naming this podcast The Fear of the Unknown. So Mark, would you like to elaborate on why we are choosing to name it that?
Yeah, so like when it comes to coaching, people throw around the phrase "just trust the process." But this isn't a process that's normal outside of this industry at all. Like you go to college, for example, and you go to college because you know that at the end of the day that you're gonna have a job after you graduate. It's pretty much a fact. You understand that. But you hire a coach now, and they're telling you to eat more food and do less cardio. And you obviously have a lot of questions when it comes to that. It's almost the exact opposite of what you've always been told. Everything you've ever learned, you'd be like, oh no, I have to eat less and exercise more. And now someone's telling you pretty much the polar opposite. So people have trouble accepting what the next step actually is.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like a lot of people get stuck in a pattern too of like doing their old thing, like always just running and never weight training. And then that's something they just continue to do and they don't want to do anything else.
Like people getting the same idea of cyclic dieting, doing the exact thing over and over and over again, and it never working out, and expecting it to work out the next time. Like, sure, it might work for like the first 3 weeks on the scale, but then you're just gonna hit a sticking point. Nothing's gonna change, and then you're gonna go back to your old habits, and it's a never-ending cycle.
So what's the biggest misconception you normally find from these people? The first thing they think of is normally like eating less to lose weight, but we all know that's really not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the biggest barrier to entry, especially for those that see the first week's meal plan. Sometimes they like message me on the side and ask like, "Are you sure that the plan will make me lose weight?" And I normally talk about use the analogy is if you were very poor, you'd only be able to afford the very basics. But if you're very wealthy, you could afford all these extra amenities. And our body kind of works the same way. When we're under eating, our hair gets weak, our nails get weak, our skin gets more brittle. Even like you notice that like your hormones will take a toll for the worse, and like you have a lower body temperature, you feel cold more often. And these are just some small things that happen when you are under eating compared to if you had more calories, those things would operate completely differently. So you having in essence a higher threshold of calories will only make you perform better.
Yeah, and that also kind of leads into the same misconception of people thinking you need to do more cardio and not lift as much. When in essence, like cardio is a tool, lifting's a tool. lifting should be your main driving output besides just your daily activity. And then using cardio, like something like stairs or the treadmill or even like the recumbent bike, should be tools that you use to implement at like in short spurts to help drive more fat loss when your main output should really just come from training and just your daily activity of just being more active.
Yeah. Well, because weight training, you're going to see the most change in your body due to the growth of muscle, and then, which then in turn, losing body fat.
Yeah, everyone thinks you just need to do like an hour or 2 hours of cardio a day when like really, really don't. Like it's kind of obsolete at that point. Like, and even if you're not doing cardio hard, that'd be like the biggest thing. Like, if you're doing cardio and you're not, and it's just simple, but it's just time consuming, you're not doing cardio hard enough. You should like be doing cardio as hard as you train.
I always tell people, and look at it this way: when we're doing cardio, we're only burning calories for that moment. When we are lifting weights and we're building more tissue, we're increasing our metabolism not only for today, but for weeks and months down the road. It's a compounding thing. It's almost like investing into a stock.
Mhm.
There's gonna be X return on it, like on a weekly or monthly basis. As I just build more tissue, I burn more calories doing that absolutely nothing. Compared to if I'm running, I'm only actively burning extra calories when I am running. There's not a continuous return from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So everyone has their first day in the gym. What would you say to someone who is basically intimidated to make that leap? So for me, like I would say, going somewhere new for sure is intimidating. I know, like the first time I went to Iron, it was with Coleman, but then I was on my own and I didn't know where anything was. And even though at that point it was like such a small gym, I was still like, oh shoot. Um, so it can definitely give some people anxiety, because you don't know everything or like where everything is. So Mark, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, for some of the same reasons why I don't like the gym hop is because like my anxiety is elevated for sure. But like I would tell people, do not be stressed about trying to be perfect because perfect is the enemy of good, and we have to accept the fact since we're a beginner, nothing is going to be perfect. And this is why one of the big reasons why I encourage people to film their sets. Because the only way of honestly getting better at it is to know what you're doing wrong. It's pretty much no different than a team watching back yesterday's game footage and seeing, oh, what did I do here? What did I do there? And what could I have done better?
Yeah, I've even seen this with my own friends. My own friends kind of have the fear of like starting something new. My best friend actually texted me a couple weeks ago and was like, "Hey, I want to start losing weight and I want to look better, but I don't want to go to a gym." And I was like, "Okay." So starting from the ground up. And he's been my best friend since we were in kindergarten. Lived across the street for me like my entire life up until like 3 years ago when he moved away. Um, so it's kind of like you got to kind of nurture them up to bringing them somewhere new and like periodic wins. So like one win every day for 365 days, 365 wins. You're never going to be perfect the first time. So
Yeah. Yeah, that first step is definitely the hardest one, but I feel like once you've done it, it's like, okay, I could probably do that again, and then keep going from there and just build off that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when it comes to weight training, I'm sure we all know someone who wants to get into fitness but feels defeated before even trying, like we've all talked about. Mark, do you have any advice for these people?
Yeah, there's this phrase I love, and it goes, the person who loves walking will walk farther than the person walking to a destination. And that does hyper focus on the rate of speed you get to your goal. But if you fall in love with the actual process, it makes the whole entire process much more sustainable. And I'm not saying we don't set goals. I think milestones are really important when it goes to any journey. But if you're focusing on just getting to somewhere quickly as possible, none of the process is going to be enjoyable. And then when you get there, the whole entire regime that you develop is going to, in essence, fall apart.
Yeah, I can agree with you. Like people are too hyper fixated on like the final product, but nothing that happens in between. When the stuff that happens in between is really like it's kind of like writing a book. You have an idea, you have your opening, and then you have your ending, but everything in between is really what matters.
Yeah.
Nothing, not just the beginning, not just the end. The middle part is what makes it a story.
Very true. You see it. I feel like this might be a little bit off topic, but like with a lot of people wanting to start a prep just for that end result. And it's like you kind of have to have a why, because that doesn't really get you through all of those difficult stages when things don't really work out in your favor.
Yeah, for sure. There has to be a deeper need for it at the end. Because like again, like there's gonna be times that's it's not pleasant, and in essence, doing it just to do it, like I guess that's good enough reason for anyone. But it's almost like if you bodybuilded specifically with the goal of just to I guess shit.
Look it on social media.
Yeah, let's use that as an
Yeah,
analogy.
yeah. It's
Look at
Without
social media.
saying it, but yeah.
The
I'll
whole
say it. I
yeah.
don't care.
The whole entire thing's actually kind of is very vain, right? Then how can you actually enjoy the small little benefits? Oh, like this, all the small little PRs, like this. Actually, I finally look like a bodybuilder now, and so on and so forth.
Right. It's kind of more for the validation of others, or from the validation of others, rather than just wanting to do it yourself, just to be competitive or for whatever other reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and if you're doing it for social media or someone's validation, honestly, you really don't like it. You probably need to dig deeper within yourself and find what you really value within yourself, not just a sport that will give you validation for being good at it.
It's one of those things that we all have a coping mechanism, and I understand that a lot of people's coping mechanism is a physical activity,
Mhm.
and it's just one of the few physical activities that you can actually get a massive benefit from a social media standpoint, right? Like uh, let's say like your coping mechanism is binge eating. Like you're not going to get a social media following from binge eating, right? It's not really going to happen. Or any other like destructive based behavior. But being obsessed with the gym does lead you can actually get a positive benefit from that. So I do respect it from that aspect, but
Yeah.
it kind of robs the beauty of it to an extent. Because like I still look at this as much as an art form more than a sport sometimes. Because we are not ranked on performance, we're ranked strictly on an aesthetic. Like we're not, no one's deadlifting at the end of the day on stage, and whoever wins wins, right? Because like Johnny Jackson would have been Mr. Olympia like several times, right? Like he was the strongest bodybuilder for a while, but it doesn't work that way. So I always look at it like an art. So when you make it all about how many likes you get, it makes it seem so much more of a shallow of a sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, social media engagement really doesn't mean anything when it comes in comparison to someone's actual value.
But like looking at the positives of it, I think like it's a cool tool to like have this community. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
it's
Like
cool to
you get
connect
to
with others.
see so many other bodybuilders and people that are just like you.
I think connection aspect is it's totally great,
Yeah, and
especially with the networking. Like majority of the people in this sport are honestly some of the nicest people, but it's just how outside society views it.
So like I envy you guys because like when I first started bodybuilding, like social media didn't really exist. Like Facebook just came out. So like I didn't know a single person that bodybuilded. Like I knew Sean Condor was the only person I knew who bodybuilded. That was it.
Sean,
Uh, and he was older than me. He was 2 grades above me and already graduated from high school. So like, I didn't like I saw him anywhere. Um, so I didn't know anyone else who did it. So like everything, I kind of just did my own prep and all the things. They couldn't find a coach. I had no idea where to find one. But now with like social media, like you can find anything. You can find a coach at 18 years old easily. Like, we have a 18-year-old client, right? Like at 18, I didn't think of getting a coach. I didn't know where to find one. Which is like common knowledge now that we get because of social media.
Right.
Mhm.
It kind of evolved the sport a little bit more. People are getting much more serious about it at a younger age, which is kind of cool to see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because like normally people would get into it like in their early 20s, and now your kids like 15 years old now as the common starting age to get actually getting into bodybuilding.
Yeah, which is sweet. Okay, so there's actually a lot of people that we find undereat, and especially in the sport and even outside of it, and people getting into fitness, they're kind of hurting themselves in a way by doing this, and it's setting them back from reaching their goals, I think. And they're not seeing the results that they want, so they probably think the process isn't working. So Mark, do you have any advice for this?
Yeah, so like the big thing I feel like people kind of issues with initially is dealing with the amount of food they're going to have to eat. Because like I know people find that terrifying, especially when it goes to where they came from. If you're the person who ate like 1,200 calories a day because you thought that's what you had to do to lose weight or get to your goal, and someone gives you probably the adequate amount for your height and structure, and it's 1,800 or 2,000 calories to start with, that's a big jump for you. That's a massive increase of food. If you think about like what the difference is, that would be almost like double the rice in rice portions for most people to get to that amount. So it'd be intimidating for the person who was scared of eating carbs, right? Who was thought that carb were the devil, so to speak, so they avoided them and barely ate them. But knowing that they have to eat more of them to get to their goal is kind of shocking for them. So it's kind of a hard pill for them to swallow because it goes against everything they've ever been told. Everything they've ever read online said, "Oh no, like the more carbs you ate, like the fatter you're going to get," and "Oh, keto is probably the fastest solution to get to my goals." Like, I feel like almost every person I ever talked to who is new to fitness has tried almost a zero carb at one point to cut or to cut fat down or do super low carb compared to just like actually like tracking the macros and changing things up that way. Um, so yeah, no, I think that's one of the biggest challenges is them accepting the true amount of food they have to eat. But the funny thing is when they start seeing the results, uh, they're kind of mind blown because they're like, dude, I really fucked myself for this long that this is what I needed to do this whole entire time. Like I literally starved myself and I'm eating an enjoyable amount of food and I'm seeing results now. Um, and it's kind of cool to see because like they kind of fall in love with like actually like feeding themselves again.
Mhm.
When initially it almost felt like um, I don't want to say like a bad thing to do, but they didn't take pride into it because they thought like almost the less they ate, the better they would look.
Right. Do you find it hard for people to start trusting that process when they've been doing that for so long on reading?
Yeah, there definitely is like a decent like rate of that. I would say like the longer someone's done the opposite way, the longer it always takes. Um, Even if they start seeing results, they're almost like scared that they're seeing like, well, like I'm gonna see results until I get to this weight because I've never been below this. And the second we get there, watch, we're gonna get stuck, Mark. I'm like, okay, we'll get stuck. Watch. And then when we get past that, they're like, oh, they put another barrier in their head. Well, it won't ever get below this number now. Because they're almost scared of accepting that that was the thing they should have always been doing,
Mm.
uh, and they almost feel like they don't deserve it. Kind of, it's like why is this suddenly happening?
Yeah,
And it's cool to see it because then you see them get excited.
for sure.
Yeah, especially when they like finally break their first barrier.
Hmm.
And they're not sure like why things are not going a certain way, and they're like, oh, maybe we need to like drop more food, or I need to do more cardio or something like that. Like what can I do? And it's like nothing, man. Like just follow it. Like it'll happen.
Right. And I feel like people really have to trust the process, and like results don't come instantly. And that's another thing. What were you gonna say, Mark? That's all you had.
It's, no, because like this makes me think of my client Patrick, and he's one I've posted a bunch of times on my story because like he's one of my favorite clients by far, and specifically from how far he's come. And he was someone who was like terrified of going to the gym. He wanted to work out from home. Like he bought like the Bowflex weights just to do at his house because he hired me during COVID. Um, and now he joined specifically a bodybuilding gym in his area to train out of that. Like, that's how far he's come. But the story in between that was he was someone who ate like 1,200 calories a day and has sedentary lifestyle. And now the guy eats over like 5,000 calories a day as maintenance. And he like loves his diet. And he's a fairly active guy now. Like it's like just 10K steps. And he's a whole different person, and from how he carries himself and demeanor standpoint now too, just being like much more confident. But he was terrified of eating more. Each time I started increasing the food, he was like, "Well, why isn't the weight moving as quickly?" He thought it was gonna move at a fast like 3-4 pounds per week, and I was like, "Hey man, like it's gonna be like 1 pound, maybe half a pound per week." And I was like, "I promise you, when it's all said and done, you'll be in a much better place." And now he's almost his same as his starting weight before. So I got him at 210 pounds, and we got him down to like 160, and now he's like 198 at like 14% body fat, and this guy is 59 years old. So it's so cool to see that from, especially he's diabetic, which was like one of the initial reasons why he hired me, because he wanted to reduce the amount of Lantus he had to use each day. And now it's significantly less, and no longer needs his metformin. So, but he was again that person who underate because he thought that was also good for his diabetes. He was like, "Oh, if I eat less carbs and just eat my proteins, I'll be good." And didn't really work out that way for him.
Yeah, he's a cool one. I've seen all his progress pictures over the years.
Yeah, I mean, you showed us one the other day, and he's yoked, and you can tell like he's so confident from that picture.
Yeah,
He's like,
it's
yeah,
here,
like
it's here, and it's not
like-
it's like your typical like.
what do you
I would
call
say
it,
typical
Mark?
dad picture. Like
No.
just here,
What do you
and that
call it,
face
Mark?
is just like, yeah, I'm here.
What do you
what
call
was I?
it? What do you call it?
This is the zaddy picture.
Yeah. That.
No, he's super stoked, and it's so cool to see, because like when I show him like his first photo, he sends me always, you can see in his face like how he felt, how he kind of looked defeated, and now he's like super happy in every check-in photo, and I love it.
Freaking awesome.
He's a cool dude. And now he's possibly doing his first show, right?
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
That'll be fun.
He's so sweet.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of MVP Coaches Corner. If you guys would like to follow us, shoot us with any questions, our links are down below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and set a bell for the next time that we put up our next upload, which will probably be on Mondays every week. Until next time, thank you.
Gotta do the
Yeah, now we